Louis Guidetti, Sexy Painter, palette knife, paper towel, Genius Mastermind setup. So the first thing we're gonna do, if you've watched me stream before, what do? We mix our secondary colors. We're gonna mix orange, this right there, flawless orange. There we go. I normally like mixing this just because it makes it a little bit more spontaneous, right? Spontaneous to mix during the painting process. So I'm gonna start by mixing palette knife colors, and then what I'm gonna do later on down the road when I'm painting paintings, I'll use a combination mixing with the palette knife and mixing with my brush between the piles of paint. So then we're gonna go through and let's mix a green. Yes, look at this green. And green, this is a limited palette. So we take a little bit of black, this is ivory black, and some yellow ochre, right? And this is actually gonna make a green, which you can tell, especially when it's right beside the red, because they are opposite colors, right? Opposites. They're opposite colors. There we go, see? Green, red, bitches. Next one, we're going to go through and mix purple. Right here, so this, again, is gonna make it more spontaneous to paint with. Huh. I didn't change at all. It's a very powerful red, which means good. I might give up on this. Just keep on adding dark. All right, you know what? This is fine, whatever. You get the idea. Using the back side of the palette knife to mix. I'll do a video on this later. Boom! Shakalaka. There we go. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna start and we're gonna mix about 5 or 6 colors going from dark to light. And it's very important, my dear peasant sobs, to organize your palette beforehand, because an organized palette will produce an organized painting, right? So what we're doing here, we're going through and we're mixing our darkest dark, but we always want to have some light, or rather some color in it. Not light, we need to have color in it. Never go straight black, straight white, bitches. Never do that, never do that. So here we go. This is our darkest dark right here, more or less. And from here, we're also gonna go through, we're gonna dip, if you will, into the ivory black. We're gonna go through and take some of our orange, mix it in here. And I'm doing small piles of paint. Normally you might want to do a little bit bigger piles. And then we're going to take just a touch, a smidgen, and I'm going to take some more black here. And we are going to incrementally get lighter. Now, as we go towards the midtones, there's going to be more color in it, which means there's going to be less black and less white, which do not contain color. In fact, this right here is a very good color for the next value that we're mixing. I'm going to have to add more black in a second. But anyway, we want to make sure that the colors are all within the proper value range, right? So I think about 2 things essentially when I'm mixing. The value, how light or darker it is, and then I think about what color I want it to be, right? So we're going to be mixing a fair skin tone here. So that's essentially going to mean that there's going to be less yellow, right? Yes, less yellow into it. So now we're gonna go in with a little bit of the ivory black, get the orange again. See, and this is why it's nice to be spontaneous, or rather mix. It enables us to be spontaneous when we have the orange, when we have the green, right? So from here, I'm just gonna go through, I'm gonna try my best to keep this without white in it. Why? Because, my dear peasant ingrates, when we mix, when we are painting, we want to keep our shadows transparent, and I try to push that transparency all the way up through the darker midtones, right? Let's try to make this a little bit more purple, which I could essentially take some of this, which actually has too much red, because I failed in that mixture right there. You could put a little bit more black into it. Anyway, just gonna try to take a little bit of the yellow out. And you know what? For a limited palette, this is not bad. This is still pushing towards the, the more yellow side. This is probably better for, somebody, more olive complexion. But now we're gonna get into it, and I'm gonna take some black, and now we're gonna start adding the white. So these are our transparent colors, right? Very good for the dark. So you want the transparency in the shadows so that the lights are more opaque and they pop forward, okay? Here we go. So we're gonna add, we want less yellow and more black and red, right? So I might actually take out this a little bit because that has a little bit, maybe perhaps too much yellow. Let's see what we get with this. We want kind of, fair skin tone. So this still has a little bit too much yellow. So this is what we're gonna do with it. I'm gonna add a little bit of black. This is why we have the paper towel. I'm using Viva paper towels, which are very nice, very pleasant. Add a little black, a little bit of white, right? To keep the value. So I'm thinking about the value. But I'm also thinking I need to get rid of that yellow. So we add everything except for that yellow, and I'm gonna add color in. We can't just add black and white because otherwise what happens? The color goes away. So now this is slowly shifting into something a little bit, more fair skin. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is very similar to this value right here. So I'm gonna go and take a little bit of white, which this is lead white or Kremnitz white. Okay, Kremnitz white. We're just gonna mix that in right here, okay? Got that. And let me go through, and you know what? Let's take a little bit more of the yellow out. And so I'm just gonna keep this process in here because it's worth showing you guys. This is how I modify my colors. And it's important to keep in mind when you first start mixing, this stuff, it might take you 45 minutes to do. It would oftentimes take me about that long to mix the colors, and until you really, really, really get used to it, right? But this is how we can slowly modify what we have, and take away the yellow in these colors right here. So from here, I'm going to go and just add. This is going to be the lighter value right here, just a touch, but I'm going to add much less of that orange that I did because it contained a little bit too much yellow for my liking. I had to really go back through and modify it. And I'm going to take just a touch of black here, right? And we got this and one more value left to go. This might be a little bit too much black, but let's see what it does. All right, here we go. See what it does. See, this is quite a nice value, but I want it slightly darker. So what do? We're going to go in with the black, all right? And notice I'm just getting it on the tip right here, just on the tip, just a little bit. All right, that might be a little bit too much, but I can always go in with some white. I'm going to get a little bit more red. I want this to be like, very fair skinned, very fair skinned. So here we go. All right, it's almost like a purple. And look at that, that's actually very purplish, right? I might go in with a little bit of orange, or I could have gone through with the yellow, but I think orange would suffice for this. These skin tones are a little bit more, fair, like we said before. This is not a bad value. If I wanted to lighten it, obviously I can go through and add some white. If I want it darker, I can add some black, but always then go through and adjust it with the color, because adding white, adding black will take away the color balance in this. So from here, we can kind of go through and just tint it like this, all right? And so the next video, I'm gonna show you how I mix between with the brush. So I'm not mixing all the specific individual colors that you see on here. That I kind of hone in with my brush, but I get the big, broad, basic bitches right here, the colors, right? That's what we do. Now this one, we're gonna put black in it? No, we don't. We don't put black in this one. We're just gonna go in, I'm gonna do a touch, oh, I got some yellow on there, one second. A touch of orange, just a touch, because now this color goes a long way with the white. It's very apparent. And then I'm gonna go and just a touch, just on the tip of the red, and that's Indian red. And from here, this is like our highlight color, right? And this is actually a very beautiful color. So we're not gonna have any black in this, but the process is that essentially I'm gonna be mixing with my brush between these colors, and so I can take between them and such to get the proper value. So I don't need to spend all day getting these colors. Now, let's go through and modify. I always look at this and say, okay, looks pretty good. And we go through and make sure everything's placed properly. We have it from dark to light, transparent colors, and then it starts with white here, right? 3 separate values. At first, if you're a beginner moron, idiot moron, it might take a while to get these colors, and you might have to fumble back and forth between them. I never have to correct like I'm doing right now. We just go through, and I'm going to add some black and some red to this one to take away that the yellow in it, the yellow, right? And so you just kind of experiment with this, right? You just do slight modifications. Just take a little bit more black. There we go. Which it needed to get darker anyway. And then a touch of red. Now this is still a little bit yellow, but if we really wanted to, we can add a little bit of white to it. This one, I'm gonna go add a significant amount of black, a significant amount of red right here. And then I want to keep that value, so I'm going to add some white. So again, we already did this once, but we're essentially taking away the balance of yellow with it, right? We're reducing the yellow ratio in this. And here, my friends, is how we do it. And we just cooled, I don't know if you want to say cooled or warmed it or whatever. There's this ongoing debate that frankly, I don't care whether it's considered warm or cool, if it's red or not. I don't care. It's less yellow, how's that? And then we just lighten it up. So this is how I work. I think about the value, which is how light or how dark it is, and then I think about the color. And you kind of have to work between the two, right? You add black, you add white, then you adjust it with the color, right? So this, my friends, is how we freaking mix flesh tones in the more fair skin range. Next video, I'm going to be going through and showing you exactly how I mix between these colors. Peace.